Hello and welcome to another session of software testing. I'm sorry, excuse me for my problem with logging to the LMS. I had to change my browser and use another browser in this short time, and excuse me for my late. As I introduced you via WhatsApp group, in this session we will do some we will see some of your representations and talk about how to read a research paper, what parts of a research paper is essential to study, and what I want to be in your slides and in your speakings. So first of all, we ask from Mrs. Noor to start her speaking. You are defined as a presenter. I defined you as presenter, so you can share your screen and you can use your mic to speak with your friends. Please first of all share your screen to see to show your slides. Sound is not clear. Other students, you have the same problem too. No sound. You could turn on your mic at the top of from icons at the top of your window. Please let me change my net if you have problem with my sound. Do you hear me at this time? Yes. Okay, you can speak. Mic not work. The mic is showed. Let me share my screen and tell you how to turn on your mic. Let me share my window. Excuse me. Just a moment. I should stop sharing to show this page. If you can see, this is the icon of mic. You can turn on your mic by this icon. Please check again. I have the recording of your friends, but I want to give you some directions about your presentation. For this aim, I want they represent their speech, if possible. Excuse me. I stopped my sharing screen. Yeah, now you can share your screen. The share screen menu is in the middle of your window, in the center of your window. You can share your screen, share document, share whiteboard, and so on. You are a presenter. Yes, today we work just on your presentations and your study project. I define you as a host. I make you as a host. Please try again. Please try again. If you can share your screen or turn on your mic. Mrs. Hana, please Excuse me again, my connection was lost for a moment. I asked from Mrs. Jannah to start your presentation if possible. You can first stop sharing, which is shared by Mrs. Hana, and you can start. Okay. Uh, please share your screen and start your speech. Mrs. Jana, do you hear me? Do you have my sound? No. Mrs. Hana, you can start your speech. Probably she could not share her screen, and you could be the first speaker in this session. After your representation, I will give you some direction about your study project. Yes, I have your sound, but a bit low. Okay. You can speaking for about 20 minutes. Each representation should take about 20 minutes, and after your speaking, we ask you some questions, and your friends could ask their questions, and you can answer all of the questions in 10 minutes. Your sound is not very clear. Please adjust your mic volume. You can adjust the volume of your mic by pushing the menu adjacent to mic icon. Adjust microphone volume and set to high, because I don't have your sound. I hear you. Please start your speaking.
malware, traditional and new generation malware, malware detection technique and algorithms, malware analysis, malware search and data mining, malware classification, malware detection approaches. The purpose. This presentation presents the investigation of the current situation of malware detection approaches. The presentation makes the following rotations. Explain new technology trend for malware, the implementation and the new approaches to detection malware. Investigation the probability of detection malware. Present summary of the current study on malware detection. Explain important approaches and method for malware detection. Discuss current challenger and propose a new tablet for malware detection approaches. Introduction. Since the internet has been grown rapidly, implementers have started to combat scams on the internet rather than in real world. Implementers are generally using malicious software to launch scams attached to the victim machine. Any software which traditionally capture malware pilot on behalf of the victim. Any software which internationally execute malware pilot in victim machines. These days, the number, specification, and cost of malware infiltrate on world economy have been increasing rapidly. Recent studies show that
Excuse me, Mrs. Hannah. Excuse me.
yes,
Your sound is very low, and your friends, it's not clear for your friends. Please speak a bit louder or adjust your volume of your mic.
hello, hello,
Your sound is very low.
very low. I don't know. Internet.
Uh, you can adjust your mic and set the volume of your mic to at the menu adjacent to your mic. Please return to your window. You can adjust your mic. Please set to high the volume of your mic. From the menu of titled by adjacent adjust microphone volume.
Hello.
Hello. Okay.
Okay. Introduction. Since the internet has been grown rapidly, criminals are started to commit on internet rather than real world. Criminals are generally using malicious software to launch attacks to the victim machine. Any software which internationally execute malicious payload in victim machine. These days, the number, specification, and cost of malware infiltrates on the world economy have been increasing rapidly. Recent studies show that mobile malware is on rise. This is the malware attacks related to the social media outlets and reducing code computing. The use of things and virtual currency are also on rise.
Excuse me again. Excuse me, Mrs. Hannah.
Yes.
your sound is very low and it's boring for your friends probably, and they don't notice from your speech. So let me to give directions about how to study a research paper. In this session, unfortunately, I could not use your speaking. Okay.
I record that video or presentation.
Okay, please stop sharing. Unfortunately, I couldn't use your explanation, and we want to postpone your speech to next sessions, such as Mrs. Noor. If you let me, I want to share my screen to give the direction as I want to tell you. Okay, just a moment, I want to record this session for you. Have you seen my screen? Yes. Excuse me, everyone. I'm sorry we couldn't use the speaking of Mrs. Hannah and so on with Mrs. Noor. So I wanted to give you some directions about how to read a paper, how to read a research paper, and how to prepare your PowerPoint slides to give your speech on class. And at this session, I choose the two papers as selected by Mrs. Noor and Mrs. Hannah. First, we explain the paper selected by Mrs. Noor, which titled "An Efficient Android Malware Detection System Based on Method-Level Behavioral Semantic Analysis." In 2019 by IEEE Access, a journal prestige and have a high impact factor in computer science and software engineering. First of all, we talk about how to use the abstract of a research paper. What is the structure of abstract? Normally, in abstract part of research papers, there are some illustrations about the problem, about the main problem of the paper. Which challenge would be solved in this paper. The first lines of abstract provide an introductory sentences about the problem and explain the problem clearly in about 2 or 3 sentences, then explain the main challenge and provide in the next section at the middle, about the middle of the abstract section, it will give some representation or some illustration of the proposed method to solve the problem, the main problem of the paper. And at the end of the abstract, some results of the evaluation of the paper are illustrated. So we summarized this structure as 3 parts. We could say that the abstract part of each research paper could have 3 parts. The first part is introduction to the main problem of the research work or research paper. The second part includes the proposed method and say about the proposed method challenge of the selected subject. And the third part, results achieved by this approach, by this proposed approach in treating with the main problem. So please note, I read this abstract, for example, and we determine the main parts of this abstract. We choose the 3 parts of this abstract. The abstract say that according to a report, 12,000 new Android malware samples will be generated every day. It's enough illustrative, and there is no need to more explanation. Efficient identification of evolving malware is urgent challenge. This sentence says about the importance of our subject or our problem. Of evolving malware is an urgent challenge. So the main problem is the identification of evolving malware, identification of new malwares. Traditional methods based on structured features such as permissions and sensitive application-based application programming interface or API calls lack high-level behavioral semantics to detect evolving malware. This sentence tells me that the existing approach, which named the existing approach with uses structured features or permissions to detect malware, to malware detection, has low performance because the lack of high-level behavioral semantics to detect evolving malware. As you know, malwares change time by time, and the tools to detect the malware should be adapted, should be noticed about the reformations of malwares, and it is the main difficulty of the traditional methods, the main problems of the traditional methods. So this sentence tell me that the traditional methods could detect some existing malwares and could not notice about the evolving of them and reformation of them. So this is a big challenge in malware detection approaches. Let's go ahead. The methods based on call graph. You are familiar with call graph that represent how methods of a program calls each other, different from control flow graph, as I said you in previous sections. So the methods based on call graph or CG are good at behavioral semantic analysis. This is a clue to start a new work about malware detection. This is a main idea to propose a new method in malware detection. So this sentence has a key phrase about the main idea behind of this research work. But face the problem of huge time and space computation. This is the drawback, disadvantage of these tools, this possibility. Okay, which leads to low detection efficiently. Okay, this sentence say about the using of call graph to detection of malwares as a good possibility, as a good tool, as a good analysis possibility. But the challenge of this possibility, the challenge of this tool is huge time and space computation. It has a very large time complexity, which leads to low detection efficiency. At the later sentences of this abstract, I expect that it said me about how to treat with this challenge, how to fix this challenge, this problem at using behavioral semantic or call graphs to detection of malwares. So this is the first part of our abstract, which explain the main problem which is solved in this research work, in this research paper. The second part usually started with this phrase, in this paper, with this word. In this paper, in this sentence, in this sentence, I expected that the proposed method will be explained. So please note, in this paper we propose a novel Android malware detection method based on the method level relationship of applications abstracted API calls. So this sentence introduces the new method, the proposed method to solve the main problem which discussed in previous sentences, in previous part. First, we exploit each Android in this sentence and about the next two sentences, there are more explanation about the proposed method. So first we split each Android application source code into separate function methods and just keep the abstracted API calls of them to form a set of abstracted API calls transaction. So this sentence gives us more illustrations about the proposed method, about how to solve the main problem of the research work. And then the next sentence also gives us more explanation. We calculate the confidence of association rules between the abstracted calls, API calls, which forms behavioral semantics to describe an application. Combine machine learning to identify the different behavioral patterns of malicious and benign applications to build the detection system. Okay, this is the second part of this abstract until to the detection system, until the end of this last sentence. Second part, which explains the proposed method with more details proposed in this research paper. Probably most of you do not notice about this explanation, about these three sentences which represent the proposed method, because you are doing concepts which stated in these sentences. So I asked you as a representative, as a speaker of each research paper, to explain these sentences with more details, to explain some keywords more illustrative, to define some keywords formally in your presentations. Some concepts in this sentence, such as API calls, may be ambiguous for some of you. So if you want to represent this paper, you should give us some definitions or rules about API calls, or you should define the method level relationship, for example, which is the meaning of method level correlation. This need to study more about these sentences or these phrases. So you should expand these sentences more illustrative in your speech, in your PowerPoint slides. At the last part, in the last part of the abstract, we see the results of empirical analysis of the proposed approach. In each research paper, the proposed method should be implemented in some programming language, or should be simulated by some tools to evaluate the performance of the method. So at the end of at the last part of the abstract, we should address or they also should address the results of his evaluation. As you see, the result of our empirical evaluation show our system is competitive in terms of classification accuracy and detection efficiency. I see this sentence as about two evaluation metric for this work, which consists of accuracy and detection efficiency. So this method actually evaluated in this research, in this experiment, according to two metrics. The first one is accuracy of detection, malware detection. The accuracy is the first criteria or first metric of our evaluation. And the second metric is detection efficiency. Detection efficiency probably means the speed of detection, malware detection process, or the time complexity of malware detection, or the amount of memory which is needed to detect malwares. Okay, so there are two metrics in this paper used to evaluate the performance of the new proposed method. At dataset Durbin, which consists of 5.9K benign applications and 5.6K malware applications, and AMD, which consists 0.5K benign applications and 20.8K malware applications. As they experienced in their empirical evaluation, they said that the proposed method has achieved 96% and 98% detection results, both in accuracy and F measure. So in this part, as you saw, the results about the evaluation of the performance of the proposed method are illustrated, and how the empirical evaluation could be done in this sentence stated that two databases are used, two data sets are used to evaluate this method, the proposed method, and probably in this context we can use two standard dataset, which names Durbin and AMD dataset, to evaluate our methods, our proposed methods about malware detection. So these results probably is better than the others in the context of malware detection approaches. At the last sentence, we should compare our evaluations with the same tools or same approaches existing in the literature. So in this last two sentences, it's stated that compared, which means compare these results with the state-of-the-art system with the existing approaches in detecting evolving malware called MAMA droid, the name of the algorithm, the name of the proposed method, on the data set of 6.0 kilo K benign applications and 20.5K malicious samples spanning from 2010 to 2017, said that our system achieves higher accuracy. This sentence say that the proposed method have higher accuracy in comparing with the state-of-the-art malware detection system, which is named by this title. While improving detection efficiency by 15 times, it's notable achievement, it's notable advancement in this paper. Okay, so as I explained to you, each abstract in research papers has three parts, mainly three parts. The first part introduces the main problem which considered in the paper. The second part explains the proposed method, and the last part or third part explains the result of experimental result or the result of empirical evaluation of the implemented approach or of the simulated approach. Okay. Have you a question? Have you noticed our speech? It's clear for you? Okay. I asked you to explain the three parts in more details, with more details in your representation. The first part, the second part, and the third part. For each of these, we should refer to some parts of the paper. For the first part, for explaining in more detail, with more details about the first part, we should study the introduction and related work part. We should study the first and probably the second part of the paper. In the first part of the paper, the introduction section, how many lines do we write in the summary, for example? Let me explain within our talks about each part, and there is no matter about the number of lines you should write. You should explain the concepts clearly. Sometimes you should use more sentences and more lines consequently, but sometimes there are no need to write more about some concept. Some concepts would be more trivial for your friends, but some of them are not introduced for your audience. So in this case, you should give more illustrations about new concepts. Okay, in the introduction part, as the name said all, as the name of this section talk with us, we expect that the problem would be explained with more details and refer to some references about their thoughts in this section, and especially you could find the main problem of the paper at the near of the last part of the introduction part. Introduction part normally explain the structure of the paper, explain which is the subsections and subtitles of the paper, and this is not very important for us at this stage, but the paragraph before this last paragraph of the introduction normally explain the problem with more details. So for understanding the problem enough to explain, we should probably study the paragraph, the one paragraph or two paragraph before the last paragraph of the introduction. So in this paper, we study these two paragraphs before the last paragraph of our introduction. Let me go. I don't study this paper before. It is the first time I read this paper. So this is a rule in writing research papers that state we should explain the main problem, we should explain the main challenge of the research paper in a paragraph, leads to the last paragraph of the introduction. So in these two paragraphs, they said that, in short, our work has the following major contributions. This method, this proposed method, have probably two advantages, two contributions. The first one is we propose a novel feature representation that incorporates behavioral semantic of Android applications. To best of our knowledge, it is the first time to use association rules of abstracted API calls to characterize and the Android behavioral features. As you noticed, for the main problem of this paper, we should refer to a paragraph before this paragraph 2, because this paragraph states the advantages of their attempt. So for receive the main problem with more detail, we go back along the introduction and study the paragraph just before this paragraph. This paragraph states the result of empirical evaluation. So, for giving the main problem, we go back again to paragraph before this to analyze difference between probably in this paragraph and this paragraph showed the main problem discussed in this paper. In some papers, this rule is used very carefully to explain the main problem at this section, at this location, just before the last paragraph. But in some papers, some authors explain the main problem along the introduction. So for understanding the main problem, you should probably read the introduction section more carefully. Sometimes the introduction gives not you enough about the main problem because you are not familiar with some phrases, with some terms, and the title and the subject is new for you. So in these cases, you should study more about the new terms. For example, you should refer to Wikipedia about new terms, or you should see some videos, some online videos from YouTube about the main terms of the paper to notice from the paper. The next section of each paper normally is the related work. The related work talks about how many works done before this work about the problem, and how they treat with this problem, how many approaches or what approaches are proposed in the literature for the main problem of the paper, and explain them in abstract in related work. In some papers there are no needs to read the related work, so you can skim this section and go to the proposed method at the third part of the paper. Normally in research papers, the third part of the paper is allocated to the proposed method, to elaborate, to introduce the proposed method, the solving method, the solution with more details, with enough details, and propose the architecture of the solution, and how the solution, the approach solved the problem, and probably in this section the author should prove their proposed method, and prove the implementation, their implementations of the proposed method, and show how the proposed method treat to the problem, how the proposed method solve the problem. So this is the main section, one of the main section of each research paper, and the most important section of each research paper that could explain enough about the proposed method. In the next section of each research paper, we should evaluate the performance of the fourth section. We should explain the results or the empirical analysis of the proposed method. At the first section of this part, it should be illustrated, it should be written that how we evaluate the proposed method and which data sets are used to evaluate this proposed method, or which methodology are used to evaluate the performance of the proposed method. So the main questions I hope you explain in your representations is to explain which data sets are used to evaluation the proposed method, which tools or programming language or environments are used to simulate or implement the proposed method, or which research question this paper, the research question which summarize the main achievements of each research paper is the most important part of the evaluation section of each research paper. Okay. So in this section, I expect that you explain which metrics are used to evaluate, which are the evaluation parameters or metrics, which data sets are used, which research questions are solved, and which tools or environments are used to simulate or implement the proposed method as explained in previous section. So in this section, normally we saw some tables which explain the data set, which introduce the data sets, the standard data sets that exist in the literature to evaluate the approaches of treating with these problems, and some tables which used to solve the research questions, the research questions of the research paper, and which consists data of our empirical results, and sometimes authors show the achievement, show the advancement by some charts, as you see in this paper, in this part of the paper. By this evaluation, we would be confident about the approach, about using the approach, and the advantage of this approach is proved for us. And the last section of each paper is the conclusion and future work. The conclusion part concludes the problem and the proposed solution and the results of the results achieved by this research work, and more than this, some future work, some hints, some directions are written for further research, for defining new research works. And the final section of each paper is references, which illustrated the references are used to do this research. But in this paper, we see a section titled discussion. In most of research papers, usually the discussion part is a subsection of experimental result. Subsection of the experimental results, and do not written and have not written in a separate independent section. So this is sometimes used as a separate section, but in most of the research paper is a subsection of the section 4 of the research paper. I want to summarize my thoughts about the research papers you study for this class. I expect you to give me a clear explanation about your selected papers, which should be consists of the definition, the more clear definition as much as possible of the main problem of the paper. Second, you should give enough about the proposed method, how the proposed method solves the problem, and how it would be work, and how it will be implemented, or how it's implemented by the authors, and in the later sections how it's have been evaluated by the authors, what data sets are used, what evaluation metrics are used, which research questions are solved, and how experimental results are designed to evaluation the paper. And one of the most important things I expected you it is the future works. It's the direction for doing more research about the subject of the paper. This is the fundamental sections I hope you consider in your representations in next sessions. If you have questions about my talks, you can ask your question. Have you any question? Is this required of us to read it? Each of you should read your own paper. This paper is just for Mrs. Noor. But you should read your paper enough and give enough explanation about the problem, about its method and its evaluation. Oh, I see you. Excuse me, Mrs. Hannah. I told you about your papers. The structure of your paper is different from this paper. Okay. I see you, and I talk about it. I just know. Note some of the research paper introduced to you are titled with some terms such as comprehensive review, such as system, as survey. These papers is different from normal papers, as I talked a moment ago. This new type of papers, which consists review, systematic review, and survey terms in their titles, different structure. These papers usually review some research works, a specific problem, such as malware detection. In this session, I wanted to see your presentations. In these papers, usually an introduction to the main problem of the paper, of the title, are provided in the first section, but in the second section it may be gives more definition about the problem, or maybe introduce some related surveys, some related reviews in the literature, or some related works. And in the next section, usually the methodology that are the methodology that is used to select related papers to study, to summarize in this work, is discussed, and in the next section it might to explain about the comparison about previous works in that research title and research subject, and there are some tables that address some papers that are published before, such as this table, which address which paper works in which approach. Some approaches are categorized in these tables and compared with each other, and the last part of these papers usually give some strengths and weaknesses of discussed approach, of introduced approach in the body of the paper. So the last section of this paper gives you some directions about new works, about new problems which exists in the industry or in research institute, about the title of about the problem of the paper. So these papers is different from the ordinary papers such as I explained you before. Mrs. Hannah, your paper is different and your work, your representation will be different from other papers. Some of you have selected review or survey papers, so do not expect that you have also the same parts as explained for this paper. If you have no questions, I think it's enough for this session, and I want to finish the recording. I have a question. Please give me your feedback. Is this session useful for you? Is this talk is useful for you? Please send me your thoughts, your opinion about my talks in this session. I think it is necessary for postgraduate students for this stage of your education. Okay, some of you don't want to write anything or saying anything in the class. I think I hope you have a contribution in class and speak and write your opinion about talks, about concepts, about your questions. So if you have no questions, let me finish this recording and finish the class. Happy good days. See you next session, inshallah. Fi aman Allah.